I know for sure that there's many, many companies who have these blinders on, who have defined competition as things that other companies that do the things that they do. And your competition has shifted. It is other people who offer the experiences you offer are now the way that you have to play the game. It doesn't really matter what the product is. The experience and the environment you're creating has been replicated out of the marketplace, and your customers have now been trained of what's good.
This is Slackers, unscripted business insight from two lifelong builders. Jaime and Jonathan are here to show you how big ideas travel across industries. Consider it your weekly companion on the path to better work and a better way of working.
One of the things we've noticed talking to operators over the years is that a lot of people either skip competitive analysis entirely, or they treat it like a homework assignment from business school or something. You know what I'm talking about, right? The spreadsheet, quadrants, there's probably like a consultant that like shows up or something. And at the end of it, you got a list of companies that look kind of like you. Same category, same product, same lane. But here is the thing. Most of the time, that's not actually who your competition is. Sometimes, the thing redefining your customers' expectations isn't even in your industry. One company changes the experience somewhere else, and suddenly your customers start wondering, hey, why don't you work that way? So today we want to talk about competition in a different way. Not just the companies in your category, but the experiences, the systems, the products that shape what your customers believe good should look like. Because once you start looking at competition that way, you realize the playing field is a lot bigger. Jonathan, good to see you as always, my man. When you think about competition through that lens, I mean, what's like the first thing that comes to mind where a company maybe outside of an industry just totally kind of flipped the table for customers when it comes to expectations?
Man, hands down, it's the pizza tracker from Domino's. Like, this is a wild one for me, and of course I'll give my age here a little bit. But like when I'm growing up, Domino's Pizza was all about, we give you your pizza in 30 minutes or less, or it's free. That was the promise. Like that was it sticks with me today. They were good at communicating that message. They had the Noid and like all these things that they did, but the whole thing was, we're going to bring you your pizza really fast. During that time, there was really never a time where Domino's promised they would bring me a good pizza in that amount of time, right? But their promise was that they would bring it to me quickly. And while that kind of maintained to be a theme of their brand for a long time, and they worked on reinventing themselves and doing all these things and making better pizzas, and to be fair, I order Domino's pizza all the time. I think it's great. But the thing that they changed fundamentally was in their mobile application, they became very, very transparent about what was going on when you placed your order. And for a lot of people, it was the first time they really saw this, which was ironic in some ways, coming from Domino's Pizza, which most of us would not think as a big technology innovator, even though I'm sure their pizza making and delivery and tracking and routing process is probably very technologically sound. But just from a customer experience standpoint and from a technology integration standpoint, the pizza tracker was kind of a revelation for people, right? Like they pulled up, when you order from Domino's, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, they're making my pizza right now. They just told me, like Dave is making my pizza. And then like a few minutes later, they're like, hey, Mark, just put it in the oven. It's ready to go. It's cooking right now. And then Mark just pulled it out and he just handed it to Jenny over here. She's going to load it up in her car. She'll be there in about 15 minutes. Hey, Jenny just pulled up. She'll be knocking on your door anytime. Don't forget to meet your driver at the door, like all this stuff. And this was all happening like in real time in the mobile app. And this has now been years of this. But it was kind of a fascinating thing where all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is a lot of information about a pizza that is going to, from the minute I place the order to the minutes at my house, we're talking about like a half hour, right? Like this, I'm not managing a really complex logistics operation, from amount of time this has to get touched and all this stuff. But what they did is they leaned all the way into this promise they've had for a really long time about like, not only are we going to bring it to you really quickly, we're going to be so transparent with it, you won't doubt it for a second. You know for sure that this pizza is going to be there on time. And the reason I bring it up is that all of a sudden, across industries, I started to hear people being like, have you seen the pizza tracker? Like the pizza tracker's pretty good. Like this is pretty good stuff. Like what's going on here? We got like location-based tracking and there's maybe some like RFID stuff going on. And there's all this logistics management and like this feels really high end, like for Domino's. Like is Domino's really doing this? And yes, Domino's is really doing this. And the reason I say all that in context of your lead in on the show there is that now people will be like, Yeah, I'm doing. I'm using this one company. I'm gonna buy these things. I'm gonna order this stuff. And maybe I'm ordering Chinese food. Maybe I'm ordering grocery delivery. Maybe whatever it is. Right. I'm ordering something. Someone's bringing to my house, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, they don't have the. Nobody. I don't know if anybody's actually making my thing. Like I don't know if this is underway. Like is it even on the way now? Like when's it gonna be here? Like when's the driver gonna show? All of a sudden I have all these questions because Domino's has showed me, hey, this is super possible. We can definitely do this. We can tell you from the minute you place your order to the minute you have your stuff, we're going to keep you in the loop the whole way, right? This is way before FedEx and UPS and all these guys were telling us these things in real time. Also, this is Domino's Pizza reinventing the way people get stuff and the way we get information and the way we provide transparency in that whole process. Super unique. And so you start talking to brands whose business is taking orders and delivering things to people. And you're like, who's your competitor? Like, who do you think's really, out here to eat your lunch? And they're like, well, like our whole thing is maybe we make furniture. Like we don't, so we look at what other furniture brands do and we think we're pretty good with respect to the other furniture guys. And overall, I think our experience is kind of right on par with what the other furniture guys do. And we have really good stuff. So I've put ourselves in a pretty good position. And then you say to those same people like, yeah, but what about Domino's Pizza? And they would look at you like you are crazy, right? Like, no. I said we make furniture. Like we make furniture. Like we don't make pizza. Yeah, I get it. But you take orders and you deliver stuff, right? Yeah. Do you think any of your customers have ever ordered from Domino's Pizza? Maybe ever? Ah, sure. Like, I could see that. Our customers, like that probably is a fit for them. There's a lot of people who probably do that. Okay. Do you think they think that maybe you should tell them all the information that Domino's tells them when they order stuff? And then sometimes in that moment, the look as people start to realize in that moment, like, wait a second, we might be being judged by our whole customer experience in a lane that is not what we do. Like, that seems unfair. Like, what I thought I was just, I'm just competing with, Joe's furniture shop down the street. Like, I'm trying to beat that guy. No, you're not, right? Like, your customer is now looking at you saying, hey, wait a second, like, guys, I just ordered a bunch of furniture from you on a Sunday, and now it's like almost a week later, and I don't really know like when it's going to be made or sent or shipped or like where is it in I don't know any of this stuff. Like what's going on? And they'd be like, oh yeah, that's just kind of how it works. Like, well, no. But on Friday, I ordered a pizza from Domino's. And I got like 9 updates of every possible thing I could imagine before they like literally knocked on my door and handed me my pizza. And I knew I had no doubt what was about to happen. How come you guys can't do that? And this is where things start to break down, right? Your customers are not looking at, well, let me see how all the furniture companies compete against each other, or all the pizza delivery companies compete against each other. No, what I'm looking at is there is a brand I do business with that treats me a particular way and offers me a certain experience that I value. And now that's kind of the standard I have for that whole experience, no matter what it is. Whether I'm ordering stuff off of Amazon or I'm ordering stuff from a furniture shop or I'm ordering pizza or whatever it is, in that moment, Domino's taught me this is absolutely possible, and it's delightful, and oh, hey, I kind of want this now when I do stuff like this. And if brands don't offer me that, now I kind of view that through the lens of they're choosing not to do that. This is something they could do, but they're electing not to do it, and this is something I really value. So now that brand's kind of diminished to me a little bit because now they're saying like, yeah, we're kind of electing not to do the thing that you really like because we're comparing ourselves with another person like us who also doesn't do that. So we think that's a fair deal. We hadn't really considered that Domino's is out here spoiling our customers with this awesome experience, and now we're going to be held to the same standard.
I don't want to get too far into the conversation without at least setting a little bit of an empathetic table for operators where we say, look, yes, of course it's important to know who is running the same race you're running in your lane. So I'm not trying to like minimize the role of a competitive analysis if you're looking closely at your neighbors, the other furniture stores, the people who are in your category. I've worked in music tech for a long time. Yes, we understand what's going on in the world of music tech. Of course, there's a lot of value in having a crisp understanding and of the moment understanding. But it is funny that once again on the show, we arrive back at a place where what we're saying is, if you aren't actively trying to bring empathy for your customer to the table first, you are leaving value on the table and you're setting yourself up to be disrupted and flipped by someone you didn't even see coming. So much of what you just articulated is really acknowledging that as human beings, our customers are not walking around all day evaluating different versions of Domino's. as they make choices all day long. They needed a solution for food in that moment, in the Domino's example. I keep riffing on it. And they had a bundle of choices and options that they had to make when they were, I guess, imagining that they were solving for, I need food to show up at my house of some type. They sort of worked their way through that decision tree to arrive at, I guess I will go and pick Domino's on this occasion. But that's not the only thing they think about all day. Like, our customers move horizontally through their life. They interact with so many brands and products and services as they move through the world, making choices all day. And as businesses, as operators, as builders, I am sympathetic to the fact that we understand why we get caught in these vertical thinking traps, that it's hard to think horizontally because we're running a race in our lane. And I get that, and that is difficult, but just the Domino's example and so many other ones I'm sure we'll get to in the show, right? They acknowledge, in my perspective, I guess, the value in purposely trying to think horizontally as somebody who's trying to serve a customer, because there are so many other things on offer. I mean, I think of Amazon's an easy one, right? The world of just, I pushed a button and something showed up at my door. Unbelievable. I mean, my kids, we've gone here before, my kids think it's unfathomable that they would order something and it's going to take days to show up and not like hours or something. That's crazy. That's wild. Like the tracking of something that Domino's brought to the forefront in their pizza tracker. Entry-level versions of that used to exist for things that literally took like days and weeks to show up. So like the tracking was like, it felt somehow way more purposeful. Like, man, I think it's probably getting put on a cargo ship somewhere in a container. Boy, they made me feel better because it's like crossing an ocean. Sure, that makes sense. And I love that Domino's said, yeah, we'll go ahead and apply that same logic for the thing that you probably don't even notice is being made in the background because it's going to take roughly half an hour. And you probably forgot you ordered one by the time it shows up. I mean, that's wild. But that recalibration of our expectations as consumers, it's happening across everything that we're touching in our life. That's somehow figuring out new ways to deliver value to us that were unexpected or delightful or removed pain or added joy and all that sort of stuff. And the customers don't care what industry it comes from. All they care is that they had to make a choice, they made a consideration, and if they come away from an experience going, damn, I'm glad I made that choice, that was pretty great, they're going to start absolutely running that filter through every future choice. Well, how come that didn't work that way? How come that didn't work that way? Oh, just to think for a minute of how things like the pizza tracker or really intelligent AI chatbots, things that are actually facilitating conversations with providers and making it easy to do basic, kind of logistical interactions with things, how much it has ratcheted up my wife's intensity around hating dealing with our healthcare or our doctors is hilarious. Because to go from that experience somewhere else where she's like, I could literally communicate with like our little league more effectively than I can with like my GP. Like, why has my healthcare group not solved how I can interact with like my GP when it comes to like booking an appointment and being able to leave a message and share like a photo for God's sake? But over here, the app I'm using to manage baseball practice and whatever does all that stuff for me. Come on, people. Like, we have that conversation probably twice a week. It's baffling.
It is the most remarkable thing with I think with the way technology moves and the way that opportunity presents itself sometimes, that brands we don't expect sometimes just launch themselves right into the forefront of an experience. And when it happens, sometimes it's novel, right? Like sometimes it's like, wow, that happened, and then like nobody else is doing this. And then there's the avalanche of, let's say, the AI chatbot you mentioned, right? Like we've gotten now where very quickly in the last year, really, chatbots went from very, very clunky things to, we ask a question, it's like, did you mean this? You're like, no, that's not what I'm, and it's like these horrible phone trees that just, you can't ever quite get to where you're trying to go, but it just keeps railroading you down this path, to having what feel like sentient conversations with these chatbots and getting real solutions to real problems. And so, yes, what's happening right now is, there might be platforms you use, services you use, whatever it may be, that have an AI chatbot that's really, really good, right? Like it feels so close to talking to a person, and it's super helpful, and it got you where you needed to go with almost zero frustration. And you got like the answer you wanted, right? And so we go like, wow, that's really awesome when that works. When it works, it's awesome. And then I go somewhere and I'm like, boy, okay, where's their chatbot? You start looking around, like, how do I interact with the thing so I can ask all the questions that are really important to me? And they're like, click here for our FAQ. And you're like, wait, okay, wait a minute. Like, what's happening here? Like, we're already setting the bar that says, okay, I've got brands that do this really, really well to the point where I actually am delighted to use the chatbot that they have because it gets me exactly what I need. It gives me all the information. I have to do all this less work than I thought I'd have to do and all this stuff. And then I go to another brand who's not competitive with them on the surface, but my lens is, oh, like they didn't invest in this yet. They either don't believe in this technology or they don't know how to implement it, or they just don't want to implement it for whatever reason. And as a customer, that you can start to feel that, right? Where they're making a conscious choice to not make this experience easier for me. And now I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's a reason for me to shop around. Like I should look and see maybe one of these other service providers is doing this thing and I can make that move. We don't want to completely diminish the fact of like, yeah, you need to be aware of who's in your lane and who literally is trying to eat your lunch today or to try and steal your exact customer. Yes, we have to be aware of all those things. But too many people are only aware of those things. That is the lens that they look at when it comes to the competition, right? We're not saying don't do that. We're saying don't only do that. That's a dangerous place to be if you're just looking to your left and your right and be like, all right, well, this is who I'm fighting against. No, your customer has a very different view of that, right? Like, so it is really important that you're like, what kinds of experiences am I offering or my customer? And what am I asking them to do? And so at this point, I'm now saying like, if I take orders from people and I process orders and I ship orders, I might need to behave like a best-in-class order taker shipper company. It may not matter what the product is, but that experience is now, there's a bar that's been set. There's table stakes that you might not even be competing at right now. You might be behind that. And your customers, though, are hyper aware of what you're offering and what you're not. And so whether that's a chatbot or it's a shopping experience or it's an order tracker or you name it, is you have to take a look at the experiences you're offering and then how is that going, right? Like, and how to, and then I do have to take a look around and say like, well, what is the best in class shopping experience right now? What is the best in class delivery experience right now? What's the best in class curation thing or whatever, recommendation engine or chatbot or whatever? Because if that's touching my customers every single day, that's now the lens that they're applying to everything they do. And they're going to judge your brand as being someone who's trying to leave them behind when they're ready to move forward. I know for sure that there's many, many companies who have these blinders on, who have defined competition as things that other companies that do the things that they do. And your competition has shifted. It is other people who offer the experiences you offer are now the way that you have to play the game. It doesn't really matter what the product is. The experience and the environment you're creating has been replicated out of the marketplace and your customers have now been trained of what's good.
Amen, brother. Amen. I mean, if there's a takeaway from what you just said that'll stick in my head for sure is that last bit. Your real competition is not the company that looks like you, right? It's the experience that trained your customer to expect something better, and that can happen somewhere else. I mean, that resonates big time. Look, I mean, I want to acknowledge, and I'd be curious to know what maybe the experience has been like for you. So maybe for some folks listening, I know I'm in this cohort as well, perhaps over the arc of your career, you have gone through like the competitive analysis exercise inside a company. And there are some traditional frameworks, right, that companies bring to the table. There's a meeting or there's an offsite or something, and we go do like the SWOT analysis, or we go do some blue ocean thing, even though that's not necessarily competitive analysis, but sort of. There's like Porter's 5 forces. There are playbooks and frameworks that I have run through before with organizations. Like, have you experienced that? And if you had any thoughts or responses or feedback from those types of experiences, I'd be curious to hear you kind of react to your time spent in those structured environments around, let's run the competitive analysis in a hardcore MBA way. What was that like if you had to go do that?
Yeah. One that does stick out to me is, and again, in cases where I'll make sure the audience, you guys understand this as well. It's like sometimes when I'm talking about, a big inflection point in time, like Domino's and the pizza trucker, I love calling out the brand. They did a great job. They made it changed the way that we handle a lot of things, and it changed expectations and leveled up a lot of people. Sometimes when I'm talking critically or going through a process like this, I don't like to call out the brands just because sometimes it's like not everybody wants to be called out for being like, yeah, we didn't really understand who our competition was, or whatever other thing might fit in that lane. So apologies in advance for being a little bit vague, but I will say, I was working with a company, and large, $1 billion company, who sells used cars, aftermarket, second market cars. That's your business. If I have a chain and I sell pre-owned cars, that's my business. Is you start to look around and be like, well, okay, so our competition are other people who do this. And maybe the lens you apply is I want to look at people that are kind of my size. So all the mom and pop ones I'm scratching off the list. Like, we're not competitive with those guys. But we're going to take a look at the people who are like maybe a little bit smaller than us, about the same size, maybe a little bit bigger, and let's go see what they do. And then there's all this work that's been done to compare against these other brands that do what they do. And yet, once again, when you go back and be like, okay, so that's great. We know that now. But what kind of problems do our customers have, right? Like, what are they dealing with, right? Like, what are they seeing out there? And some of this is be like, when all you do is look at the people who are like you, all you can find is people who've started to take some steps forward in certain places, and you're like, well, maybe we should do that too. But what happens is you start to see like, okay, wait a minute, we have all these dealerships. We market cars like other people market cars and all this stuff. But the experience people have is like, I want to be able to show up, I want to be able to find the car I want. I want to be able to quickly get into it. I want to, all these things that, when we hope when we go, let's say, shopping for a car. And we have it in kind of our head, or what are these things that are possible? Well, I should be able to know exactly what's in inventory everywhere. Right. Well, I've learned that from other things. Other retailers tell me, Target tells me this is in stock, this is not in stock. And so I'm immediately as a customer being like, okay, well, that should be possible. I should be able to easily see what's in stock everywhere that's out there. And I should also probably, because, all these companies are now having, let's say, chatbots. None of my competitors really have this, so I've kind of devalued it. But I do start to see that the customers I'm talking to have started to become familiar with this. This is kind of an expectation. They want to be able to ask questions about the cars and be able to talk to, virtual people about it or whatever it may be. And so if no one has made that move yet, but customers are starting to see it, okay, now your customers are starting to say like, hey, like when I show up at the lot and I've already filled out a form, like, shouldn't you guys know I'm coming in? Like, there should be no surprise that I'm here looking for this car. Like, that you should get an alert that says I'm here, and then you should come out and we should go, jump in the car together or whatever the case may be. And they're like, well, yeah, we don't do that. None of our competitors do that. You're like, no, a lot of places do that know when you pull up that I am here and that you can now come and you already know everything about me. I've already filled out all the stuff. Like, let's do that. You start looking at customer behavior stuff about like, well, I expect it to be a mobile app, and I expect there to be a useful chat bot, and I expect to be able to have clear understanding of the inventory and the cost of these things. I want to be able to get answers to all my questions immediately. Like, I start checking off all these boxes of stuff that's like, yeah, this is what I get elsewhere. Like all these other places I shop that are not for cars, but I conduct commerce and I conduct, on-site visits to these places. Maybe I go to my chiropractor and I check in early. And as soon as I walk in the door, hey, Jonathan, you here for your 1 o'clock? Yep. And like, yeah, we had you coming in. We know you were showing up. Like, they already knew, right? It was all part of the system. This was not a surprise that I showed up. And nor should it surprise anyone when I show up at the car dealership. But yet the person who greets me has no idea who I am or why I'm there or what I've done before. And yet again, you say, sure, well, none of my competitors are doing that. Like, why should I be investing in that? None of my competitors haven't made the move yet. I don't want to be the first one in my lane to go like do this thing. You're like, yeah, but you kind of have to, because your customers now, the exact same people that you're marketing to, that you're trying to convince to choose you to buy their next vehicle from, are starting to assess your capabilities by what their expectations are, right? Like, I expect all this stuff to work and to happen and to be available to me. So when you start looking at your roadmap and you start looking at your priorities and all these other things, if all you did was look at the other competitors like you, and if they have yet to offer any of this as well, or even just fragments of it, you might think you're in a pretty good spot. Like, we're fine. Like, we don't need to make this investment yet. For all you know, your competitors are already looking at what your customer experiences are elsewhere, and they're investing in this now. But you don't see it yet, so you're not making the move. But all the indicators are there. When you look around and you look at the people you're marketing to try and win their business, they're being delighted in all these various places and being shown what's possible through technology or otherwise. What you're capable of doing that they want. Like, in this shopping experience, I wish I had all these things. They're not there. But if you're not looking at that and you're not realizing what your customers are prioritizing, and all you're doing is looking left and right, before you know it, the people who you thought were your competitors are now kicking your ass, right? Like, they jumped right in front of you. Now you're looking and be like, oh no. They're starting to move in all these areas that we hadn't really prioritized. And now I am starting to fall behind. And now I've really got to scramble to catch up, because now I'm not delighting my customers, my competitors are. But way before that, you had the opportunity to be like, wait a minute, the ground's shifting underneath us here. our customers are starting to expect things from us that we can't offer them, and we have to prioritize and define and deliver on that, or we are going to get leapfrogged in a way we did not see coming because we didn't anticipate by only looking at what the nearest competitor in our lane looked like. And then we didn't realize that our customers were over here saying, yeah, but I have all these expectations now and you're not meeting them.
What's so interesting about that is there's a certain type of risk that comes along with being really complacent in your own industry, because to your point, you're looking around to your left and your right, and you're benchmarking against what could be arguably a really low floor, right? And instead, but everybody's sort of benchmarking around that low floor just by virtue of what's going on in the industry. And what you're missing, right, is that opportunity to truly be transformative, because you can level up in an extreme way if you're willing to, again, try to expand your purview to consider what else your customer is interacting with that might be additive or contributing to their worldview that probably drifts into what you do. And I also love that you answered the question that I asked, or I was trying to take the conversation probably somewhere super boring. I was mentioning SWOT and frameworks and all that sort of stuff. And really, you ended up getting to where I wanted to go by trying to introduce something that's like boring, where I have been in those meetings and those offsite workshops or whatever. And lots of times the spirit behind them is very good, and they're run by people who are trying to do good work. And that's great. And a SWOT analysis, right, for, strength, weakness, opportunities, threat. Great. The spirit of that can be fantastic. But what is so clear, at least in my experience, is that type of analysis, or any other framework that you can go find in a book somewhere or the MBA or whatever, it's really hard to orient that type of an exercise around your customer. Most groups run it with an internal worldview. So when you put it up on the whiteboard, it's like, all right, everybody, let's talk about our strengths. Everybody sits back and goes, okay, well, we're really good at logistics. Our sales team is pretty gnarly. We got a lot of like boots on the ground that can do that. They're knocking on doors. Really good at email marketing. Our email systems are robust. I mean, you start to like compile your strengths, your weaknesses. You start imagining opportunities, all with that sort of self-serving worldview. And I'm not trying to discount that. I'm just posing that maybe that's an incomplete exercise, that the other half of that coin, and maybe we can go here a little bit, especially in the age of AI, because you can just run this whole thing on steroids, is to run that SWOT exercise in that example through the lens of your customer. What are our customers saying they love about us? We say our strengths are this. Is that what our customers say? Are there reviews somewhere? What's customer support say? Like, where can we go gather feedback? Or I know, what AI assistant can I use to go do deep research in and around who's saying what about me online somewhere? I mean, those tools exist. Sentiment analysis, all that sort of stuff. But I love that idea of trying to just acknowledge that something like a SWOT analysis, or perhaps any of these frameworks, probably come with two sides to the coin. There's the side that is all about the business talking to the business about the business. And then there's the other side, which is, can we run that same exercise with the voice of our customer in mind and try to capture that? Let's really go look for that data and try to compile it. Let's try to understand what our customers say the opportunities might be based on, to your point, what they're experiencing other places. It's going to require us to stretch our imagination, perhaps, in a few different places that maybe aren't natural because we don't work those muscles all the time in our organization, but that's the job. And I think that's like exciting work. So I was trying to sort of get to some of that by asking about the frameworks. But it does make me think how at this moment in time, and watch, this show will be outdated in 6 months or something. Every time we talk about an AI being able to do a thing, because it's just moving so insanely fast, it's ridiculous. But the idea that you could go use tools that we have at our disposal now to surface testimonials, to compile the data from your customer support team, to start trying to tease out these insights by just looking at what people are actually saying in the public domain about the work that you do, or starting to get creative and mining for that same type of feedback in an industry that's adjacent to what you do, to your point, like just expanding the definition of your business into like, well, we deliver things to people who order them. Who else does that, And being able to run that exercise with the help of AI tools to compile that data, sort of organize it, and start to extract insights. I mean, man, that's when you start to realize that like really great competitive analysis is really, in many ways, about really getting good at listening. And that just stands out as stark to me. So then if you're trying to say like the marketplace is a fantastic listening device, then the conversation internally becomes, how good are we at listening? Like, are we? And if we are listening to some degree, are we able to categorize the signals we're hearing? Are there loud ones? Are there quiet ones? Maybe quiet ones are opportunities. I mean, I don't know. Now my head's going to a place of the competency of being able to be actively listening as part of your strategic toolkit to do competitive analysis. Does that make any sense? Or did I just like drift into that? I just rolled myself off a cliff.
No, no, you're still with us.
All right.
I think that's all right. I think that's all right. I think, and part of it is, and you touched on this, right? There are playbooks that live all over the place for how to run a competitive analysis, right? You mentioned the strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats, right? And some of this is, we kind of misuse these tools a little bit in some way when we look at it. It's like, well, all the things we're talking about here, some of this is just, you're kind of misappropriating some of this stuff because your focus is too narrow, right? Like when you think about, and you mentioned it, right? Where it's just like, well, what do our customers value? Like, what do they view as our strengths? What do they think we're weak at? Like, where do they see opportunities for us? Like, what do they see threats against us? Like, what do they think? But then there's also the whole like, viewed as an experience, right? To like, we take orders and deliver things to people that want them, as if that's an experience. Okay, well, where are our strengths in that? Like specifically, like what are the experiences we offer, that we put on offer for our customers, and how do those dimensions kind of frame up, right? Like, where are we being threatened on the experience that we're delivering? Where's opportunities to improve experience and this kind of stuff? Like at an experience level of something that as a customer we're asking them to do, or something that they're going to be a part of, is that it rapidly kind of gets distilled down into like the other people like us that are out there are doing these things, and how do we stack up against that? It's just amazing how fast it gets to that. And there always needs to be, and if I could throw something out for people listening, and we try to do this a lot, if you're in a meeting and it's headed that way, please be the person that asks, be like, can we look at this from a couple different angles here? Like, let's talk about the customer. Let's talk about some of these experiences we're putting out there. How do we stack up there? Like, we might be the best, TV delivery company here in the area, but like, how are our customers viewing us here really? Like, what is the experience that they're having with us? And how do we see some of those things being threatened out in the broader marketplace? Is like, be the one in the room who has to like, let's poke at that. Because if we all sit here and say, all right, let's look at all the people who make TVs and let's see how we stack up against those guys. And you're like, well, let's cut out the real premium ones and the real cheap ones because we're not that. So let's, we'll kind of box in here. Like, these are the guys most like us. And you start there, and all you do is look at what they do. You're just scratching the surface of the opportunity to really get an evaluation of what you could be doing here and what your customers might expect from you, and how you might be the one to move first, right? Like, you don't have to wait until everyone to your left and right has all done all the stuff. And they're like, well, okay, we're falling behind. It's time to catch up. It's like, you're already falling behind because they were looking at these things a year ago and you're looking at them now, right? Like, that's how you fall behind. Even if you look and say, I don't see anybody else doing the pizza tracker thing, we're good, until everyone shows up with the pizza tracker and you miss the boat, right? Like, that happens all the time. So you just can't have your blinders on during this kind of phase when you're looking at stuff. So yeah, if you're leading the meeting, make sure you keep it across all these different dimensions. And if you're being led down a very narrow path, be the one to speak up and say, we got to look at this a little more broadly here. We got to better understand our customers. We got to better understand these experiences that we're presenting out there. And yeah, we do need to know what our direct competitors are doing and up to. But it's a small piece of the pie of what you're really trying to do. And if you spend 3 days in a workshop, everybody writing on the whiteboard and eating sandwiches and not leaving the room and all this other stuff, and all you did was properly identify the people who do the things like you've missed a huge part of the task, right? And so, yeah, you can run some of these, MBA traps and exercises and workshops and pull out your textbook or whatever. But if you don't have the right lens applied to each of these things, all you're doing is saying, I'm going to take a very narrow look at something that's going to tell me that I'm doing okay, more than likely, right? Like that's going to be, maybe we need to make a $10,000 version of this thing, or maybe I need a $200 TV or whatever it might be. But you're going to miss on what your customers want, what they're looking for, how you might delight them, and kind of what they expect from you in the first place. Because all you do is say, well, the guy down the street who does what we do has just raised his prices by 10%. So what are we going to do about that? Like, that is not a plan.
It's reminding me, and I swear I'm not like purposely trying to bring up like frameworks and things that come out of like, a business school or something like that. But I know you and I both have background in product lanes and sitting and working with product teams. Something that has frequently come up, I think, in both of our experiences are product leaders who love to talk about like the Kano model of building products, which is essentially just saying that there is a sort of stack of categories that sits kind of on top of each other that articulate for any product or service. Like there are like the must-have, requirements, the functional bits, all the way up to like the thing that we consider to be like delighters, right? That's the magical stuff. And it made me think of that because of what you just said in come back to Domino's or Amazon and what they've done with, delivery, all that sort of stuff. It's just worth noting that whatever perhaps you consider to be a delighter like feature or differentiator in your world today is going to get pushed down that stack. It's going to get pushed down into that bucket of like, well, now this is just baseline expectation by your competitors in your lane, but almost certainly by people outside of your lane. So if you felt like you had to go have a conversation with a product person and kind of talk about this, maybe like through a framework that's going to sort of like resonate, it's like that march of time from like a delighter feature to like a performance feature to like, this is just must have, eat your vegetables, table stake stuff, that gets accelerated by all of these external forces. So really there's kind of an exercise that I think would be interesting for a product organization to run, which is irrespective of your category or your lane, just like who's got the latest, who's got their finger on the pulse of like what's kind of simmering and popping right now in the world at large. Is there buzz anywhere in product land or service land or whatever about the thing that, obviously it's easy to kind of say things like, yes, AI, everything and like whatever. But maybe really drill into that. Like, where are there subtle things? It makes me think of like what Snapchat did with AR in a way that was helping their users play with augmented reality through their lenses and filters. And people who were realizing that they could use that technology to drop a couch in a picture of someone's family room to help them place an object that they were going to go purchase. And some of that, I hope, maybe came about because someone was noticing, listening, that this thing happening over here on Planet Snapchat might have a really interesting application over here on Planet Furniture. And there you go. But that comes with the asterisk, that comes with the kind of Kano model mindset of like, by the way, the march of time will push all of that stuff south. So this exercise has to be ongoing.
I think the one thing that sometimes people mistake for that is latching on to whatever the new bleeding edge whiz bang tech thing is. That is a trap almost every time, right? Like a blockchain, a NFT, whatever it might be. Yeah, some of that stuff pops and goes bananas, like AI or whatever else. That there's things that we like, yep, this is a thing, and here we go. Or we're being told this is a thing. I don't really understand what the value of this is. I don't know if I know any customers of mine who are like really fascinated by this in any particular way. And so I have to be careful that I don't just be like, oh, everybody's buzzing about this thing. How do we work this into our business? I can't tell you how many times I've heard somebody say, hey, all my investors are saying blockchain. What do I do? How do I get blockchain in my business? And you're like, do you need blockchain? Like, is there something that's driving you to be like, blockchain is absolutely going to fix problems my customers have or delight them in some way? Or am I just being told like, guys, there's a blockchain bandwagon. We got to get on it. Like, where do we fit this in? How do we say we're a blockchain company? And I saw it with NFTs and I've seen it with all kinds of stuff. Even in the early AI waves of 10 years ago, and maybe if you go back 3 or 4 years, it became this like, just say it's AI. Like, I don't care if it's a algorithm, whatever it is. Like, we're in machine learning, it doesn't matter. We are an AI company now. Like, we're going to say we got AI stuff because that's what the industry is saying we got to say. And like, I really caution people not to fall in that trap. It's tempting. Like sometimes you'll see buzzy stuff and you're like, oh my God, like look at what everybody's embracing this thing. I don't even know what it is. What's blockchain? I don't know, but it seems like a thing. We got to have it. Like, well, how do we do this? Right. They're like, okay. Like, so I want to make sure people also understand, like when you say that, like, you're really saying is like, look around the universe. What is delighting people that look like your customers? And if that's something that has value to your business and their experience, you should absolutely be looking at that without any question. But also be wary of the bleeding edge technology trap, which tells everyone every year that if you don't do this thing, you're going to somehow fall behind. And you can't just run off and be like, how do we turn our business into all NFTs? Because that's the thing. And realizing that nobody's asking for that. Right, like that has to be, you gotta. So I'm just like, to our audience, I want to make sure like differentiate between the what momentum is happening out in the marketplace that is absolutely delivering excitement and delight and function to people that look like your customers, and how does you start to look at like, how does that fit in what we do? Like, can I actually unlock something delightful for my customer by using this? Then yes, we have to take a look at that. And that's where your product people need to be focused on these other things and be wary of here's the hot new killer thing. Everybody like, let's go do it, because that isn't always what you need. But you can't miss the boat when it's starting to work, when customers are leaning in, like we're seeing right now. I'm seeing day after day, I'm seeing customers say, if this company doesn't have a functional AI chatbot that I can interact with and ask questions and get stuff, I'm out. Like, that's not for me anymore. I'm going to go find the one who has that. Like, we're already moving into that phase. But 3, 4, 5 years ago, it was hey, our like AI chatbot thing's going to be like, is that going to be the thing? And then you see companies that start doing it well and customers that start being like, this is pretty awesome. Like, when people do this well, I really like it and I want that. And if you are completely oblivious to that, then yeah, you got a problem.
I hope anyone listening to the show, because you're absolutely right about the shiny object chasing and everything that goes on in that kind of bucket of stuff that comes from that. I hope anybody listening to the show understands that there's lots of value in looking around at what's buzzing and what's interesting, but we're not talking about NFT washing a press release or AI washing a press release or any of that sort of stuff. I assume that people listening to the show know that in any context, you and I are going to try to airdrop the customer into the center of that thing. And that's oftentimes the missing piece of that, right? It's worthwhile, especially if you think that you're running some sort of like innovation lab in your team, or you got a tiger team of people that have been charged with like, go off into a room over here and just go do weird, innovative stuff. Because that way we say that we have an innovation team and we're working on something, which not a bad thing to have, by the way. I'm just saying those are the environments where like we want people to play. We want people to explore. We want to go into those places that are just total non sequiturs and different. But if something comes out of that, you still got to put yourself on the hook to serve the customer. You still got to put yourself on the hook to be accountable for the experience you're delivering, which means if you're coming out of that meeting going, hey guy, NFTs are it. Fantastic. I hear you. Sounds great. Now tell me how that NFT experience is absolutely with a competent assertion going to improve the lives of our customer and the experience that they have with us in the following ways. I need to hear that now. So you got to be able to connect those things. And that's the job. That's the exercise. Because hopefully what comes out of that is not people trying to defend the shiny object or whatever, or any of that stuff, but instead people being able to go, if you're on a team that's kind of, able to hum together like that, going, okay, yeah, you're right. I can't really figure out how the NFT adds value to our world. Or you go, well, actually, what about this particular use case? And suddenly people are going, oh, wow, I guess that's true. I mean, that is the job. All of that assumes that you are always going to, again, airdrop your customer, the people you seek to serve, the audience, into the center of that exercise, which kind of brings us right back to the top of a competitive analysis is incomplete if we've only done one part of it, which is assess what we do as an organization by the organization. We're leaving value on the table. We're missing opportunity if we're not figuring out how to run these exercises from the point of view of our customers, or at least trying to tease out their feedback. It reminds me of, so now I'm just thinking of a tactical kind of piece here. How many times you and I have met with companies, even if it's not a formal, meeting where we're doing hardcore stuff like this and running some framework. It's just having a discussion around a table with senior stakeholders or whatever. How often customer support is not present in those conversations? I mean, I feel like that is like almost all the time, like 99% of the time when we would go into an organization and be charged with having a conversation at whatever level of the interaction or the engagement might be, but just having a conversation. And the organization has said, all right, we're going to pull together I'm doing air quotes here, the right people to go have this conversation. You look around and you're like, who owns the voice of the customer? Like who has that information? And like the sales guys kind of look over and they're like, that might be, this person, or like maybe Sally over here has it. Or then there's sort of like this weird finger pointing, and you realize it's like, man, like, do you guys got customer support? How come these guys don't have a seat at this table? So it just makes me think, if you're out there kind of involved in either setting up those meetings or structuring those meetings, or you're a part of meetings like that, there's a worthwhile moment there where you might just want to make sure that you have people from the support team sitting around the table in the right, in the right context.
I mean, yes, I totally agree with that. But the voice of the customer part you mentioned there is just so important. I literally can't count the number of times I've been in a meeting, or to your point, it's just a collection of people having a conversation of stuff with stakeholders in the room, of how often you're missing the, hey, who knows our customers inside and out here? Like, who's the one who knows that? And they might have bits and pieces, but it is rare that you sit and the person goes like, yeah, it's me over here. Like, I've got inside and out. I know it. Like, you ask me anything, I'll tell you everything about our customers. I'll tell you every type of customer we have. I'll tell you the things they hired us for, the things they love for us, the thing they wish we did better. I know all this stuff. Super rare. Now, I will always come back to the fact that there's a little bit of an echo chamber there, which is that most of the time I'm sitting in a room like that is because it's a company that needs help. And so many times when companies get stuck, which we've talked about before, is that voice of the customer and just the pure knowledge of what that person, how they view the world, how they view you, the problems that they have, like all of the things that they might need that you might be related to. It is remarkable how often that just gets missed, right? And that's why people get stuck a lot of times. That is a big reason why you get stuck, because I don't truly understand my customer. So I'm not really always doing things that benefit them. And eventually I start just doing things that benefit me. And then they leave. That's like, that's it, right? Like, that's how that works. That even works. That's how relationships work, by the way, if anybody's wondering about that. Like, this is if you're not following the care and feeding for the people that you show up to work every day for, which is your customers, if you don't understand how to nurture them and how to meet their needs and exceed their expectations and all these things, if you get so focused on just like what you do and what the people next to you do, and you lose track of who you do it for, it kind of falls off the rails pretty quickly in a lot of cases. Or at the very least, you end up down a path that nobody really knows how you got there, because you start being like, I kind of felt like we were doing all the right stuff for the company, and then all of a sudden we look around, we don't really have any customers anymore. Like, how did that happen? Well, because you weren't really doing things for the customers in the first place, right? And yeah, we beat that drum a lot, but it's an important drum to beat, because I encourage everyone who would be listening to this podcast now, if you work in an environment where you're talking about these kinds of things, look around the room. Who is the one that's the voice of the customer in here? Like, do we even have them in the room? Like, to your point, that could be a senior customer service person. Those people talk to thousands of customers. They hear everything, right? Like, they are the untapped resource of most organizations, where there's a tremendous amount of knowledge, institutional knowledge, customer perspective, all the stuff sits in that room, whatever that might be. And they know these things inside and out. Like, you could ask any one of them, hey, what's the biggest complaint? What things people love the most about us? Like, what do they wish we did that we don't do? They know those things. They literally know it off the top of their head. They will tell you the answer to that, right? Like, we do all this research, and how often they don't involve the team that has all the knowledge. It's amazing. But whether it's your support team, or whether it's a product person, or whether it's a strategic person, or whatever it may be, that you do have to have that. Somebody has to know that. And if you don't, stop the meeting. Like, we got to go learn more about our customers before we even have this conversation, because we are not going to make a good decision otherwise. And a lot of it comes back to how your customers view the experience that you offer and how they want it to go. And it's like, if I'm putting these 3 experiences on offer, And I'm not comparing it to what the industry's already starting to do in those same lanes for these same people. It's not like it's even a different group. Like Netflix and Domino's and Amazon and, pick your thing of people who delight people on a pretty regular basis with a variety of experiences. They've fully trained these same people that you're trying to sell to of not only what's possible, but what's exciting, what's delightful, what's fun, and what makes this experience great for them. And if you cannot bring that to the table, you're going to miss out on delighting these people, and you're going to you'll get very internally focused, and you'll start to kind of come off the rails. And so I just can't encourage people enough to be like, if you think you know everything about your customer, try and learn just a little bit more, see how that gets you. Bring more people into the room, put all your effort into that first. And then you can start looking at these other dimensions, and they'll make sense. It'll be really obvious. So we're like, yep, we could definitely improve this experience with these things other companies are doing, and our customers will be happy because we talked to them and they're like, yeah, we really want that. And what a fun thing to be able to do is be able to bring that to your customers in a way that says, these guys did it. They brought the pizza tracker to the furniture thing. This is great. And wow, they're doing it. And now I look at the competitors like, they're not doing it. These guys are bleeding edge. They're on the front line of this thing. And I'm gonna line up with this brand and all this stuff. It's important, and it can't be the second or third or fourth or fifth thing on your list when you sit down to do these exercises. You have to, when you look at a competitive analysis, start by who are your customers? What do they want? Why'd they hire you? What do they need? And how are you doing to go deliver on that? And if you can't start there, you're gonna miss the boat.
Oof. I'm in. You gave me the chills, dude. That's the one. I'm half kidding, but that does get me legitimately charged up and excited, because when you bring that kind of energy to a process like that, and you can just feel the passion in which you're kind of articulating all of those points. And I completely agree. And it gets me kind of charged up, and it really just makes it so clear to me that when we talk about competitive analysis, here we are talking about it together, but maybe you on the other end, if you go have this conversation with your team, you go have it with yourself, with other people, really just embrace that this is not some corporate ritual. This is a real strategic discipline that has an enormous amount of value and opportunity there sitting for you if you realize that it's there in the first place for the taking. Because what we're talking about, again, and from my seat, is the core value of strategy, in its purest form and a foundational level, which is really to just surface decisions. I mean, all of that stuff that you talked about, you hope you get to the other end of so many of those conversations and exercises and all that consideration about putting your customer at the center. And hopefully you just have been able to surface and bring to light a whole stack of questions and potential decisions and options that you just never considered before. That's exciting. You might just come away from that with something, man, we thought we had to choose between doing these 3 things next quarter, next year, whatever on the roadmap. But man, there's a lot more things for us to consider. We have surfaced real choices that might make a real impact on our work or our art or the business that we're trying to deliver for the people we seek to serve. That's energizing. That is energizing for my seat, man. I don't know. I feel like that's the show, but I mean, parting thoughts, parting words. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's the show. I will say, in the effort of a competitive analysis, as you look across, horizontally to more than just the people to your left and right, but across the entire consumer landscape, focus on the experiences, focus on your customer. You're going to get to a much better place if you kind of start there than if you just try to look at who does stuff like me and how do I be a little better than those guys. You're going to get a lot farther the other way.
Yes, sir. I'm Jaime.
And I'm Jonathan.
Thank you as always for being with us. This is Slackers. Please check the show notes. You'll find links to my work, to Jonathan's work, links where you can reach out and say hi. We love it when people say hi. Thank you for listening. As always, we're grateful for your time. Look forward to talking to you soon. Take care.